Alright, and welcome to Renting Expenses. Okay guys, so right here, what I have is I have a very specific example for y'all, and I'm just going to show you how to look at one apartment complex in particular. So this is actually a floor plan for the Marquis on Gaston, and the Marquis on Gaston is actually a very cool apartment complex. It's located right off of Deep Ellum. Deep Ellum is kind of like the one of the more fun areas in Dallas, we'll say, and you might consider moving there at some point. This was one of the more affordable apartments in the area. It was literally one block away from Deep Ellum, and I actually lived there for the past 2 years before moving to my current apartment. Okay, so, I'm even going to write this down for you. It's the Marquis on Gaston. Now here is their cheapest, least expensive, one-bedroom apartment. And right now, currently, it is on the market for $1,105. Now, here's another thing about apartment prices. Throughout the year, apartment prices are actually going to vary pretty significantly. When I was looking at this apartment 2 years ago, it was actually on the market for $1,300. All right, so why is it cheaper now? Because of COVID, there are a lot of people who are in what's called forbearance, and they're the landlords of different apartments actually cannot evict tenants right now who are unable to pay rent. So as a result, there are actually apartments are actually having to lower their prices because there are a lot of people who just can't afford them the same rates that there were before COVID. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to take this monthly rate and we actually want to get a comparison. We want to get a comparison to what's the cost between renting and owning a house. So for example right here, if we have the monthly rate, think about this. This is pretty intuitive. How would you find the yearly rate? Well, the yearly rate is you would have to multiply this by 12, right? Because there's 12 months in a year. Okay, so we're going to do 1105 times 12. And notice I'm just going to go ahead and kind of pull up this calculator where y'all can see it. Let's see. So we'll go to our Desmos Scientific Calculator. And we'll just say, okay, we know that our apartment is 11. Oh, come back. Sorry, guys. 1105 times 12. Easy. And for the full year, this is going to cost you $13,260. Okay, so let's say that's $13,260. Now also, as a good rule of thumb, a lot of financial experts will say that you never want this to be more than 25% of your yearly salary. So guys, a good way to know if you can actually afford an apartment is just take your yearly salary and divide it by 4. And if this number is greater than that, well, you probably would not want to buy there. Okay, now, how are we going to figure this out for 15 years? Because guys, most home mortgages, you can either get them for a 15-year period or you can get them for a 30-year period. By the way, when I say the word mortgage, that's just another way, a fancy way of saying the home loan. Okay, well, to calculate this for 15 years, like what would it cost you to rent over the same time that you could be paying on a home? Well, we'll simply multiply this by 15. Okay, so we'll take our 13,260 and we'll multiply by 15. And guys, for most of you, this should be fairly intuitive. I can even click the answer button times 15. Okay. Oh, silly. Answer button. No. Alright, well, thought it was going to be easy. 1360. Oh, I'm sorry. 13,260 times 15 years. Okay. So, if you wanted to buy a house on a 15-year mortgage, it's going to cost you some amount, we'll find out later. But what if you rented over that same 15-year period and this rate stayed the same? Well, you'd be paying $198,900 over that 15-year period. Okay, but what if we actually didn't want to figure out the 15-year period? What if we wanted to take out a 30-year mortgage? What if we wanted to take out a 30-year mortgage? Well, it's going to be a little bit different. We take our yearly rate and we simply multiply by 30. So 13,260. Okay, 13,260 times 30. Oh, sorry guys, I'm having some connection issues here. 13,260 times 30. And over the 30-year period for this one apartment, you would wind up spending $397,800. Now, we want to take this 15-year price and this 30-year price, and we want to kind of hold these in our mind when we're talking about the price of a home loan over 15 years and 30 years. Because here's the key difference between renting and owning a home. At the end of your lease and renting, you've spent, whether it's 1 year or whether it's 15 years or whether it's 30 years, you've spent that money, but you have nothing to show for it. All right? This money is spent for a temporary place of existence. Whereas with a home, you might pay more, but you're going to have something to show for it at the end. Now, there's one final thing that I want to go ahead and address. And this will be kind of at the end. It'll be the last problem here for renting. And that's going to be, well, we were assuming all these values if this monthly price stayed the same. However, it typically won't. Okay, so the question is, how much does this price go up on a year-by-year basis? So we're going to say this. Apartments go up in price 3 to 5% annually. So remember, we just said that, we're going to pay on this apartment, maybe we stay here for 30 years. That's ludicrous. That probably wouldn't happen. But let's say we did. We were assuming that this monthly price was staying the same. But that's not true at all. So let's find out, what would this same apartment potentially cost 30 years from now? Remember, we have our exponential function for simple appreciation, depreciation, is a parentheses b raised to the power of x. And for here, we want to find out how much will this apartment cost 30 years from now. We know it starts out at a price of $1,105. And once again, we're going to test this guy out for 30 years from now. Now remember, the mistake would be to say, okay, let's go ahead and test this out on its low end. Let's just say a 3% growth. Well, the mistake would be for you to put 0.03, right? We know that's wrong, because we actually have to add this to the apartment's starting value. And remember, the apartment's starting value is at 100%. So we got to do 100% plus 3%, which then translates to 103%. Well, we change that to our decimal, which will be 1.03. So guys, remember, you have to be very, very careful when finding your exponential growth or depreciation rate that you're adding or subtracting to 100. Now let's go ahead and test this out. How much would this apartment potentially cost 30 years from now? So we're going to go ahead and do 1,105 parentheses 1.03, so we're assuming a 3% growth rate. We click this A to the B, and we're going to test this over 30 years. And it looks like this very same apartment that today will cost you $1,105 per month to live in is going to cost you $2,682.13 30 years from now. So this would be your expected monthly price 30 years from now. Alright guys, so remember, it doesn't jump overnight from one to the other. You would expect every single year it's going to increase by 3%. So your monthly renting expenses are going to get more and more expensive over time. And one of the big difference with a home loan is that whenever you lock in your 30-year or your 15-year home mortgage rate, you actually will pay that exact amount of money every single month for the next 30 years. So that's one advantage to buying a home, is that the monthly price can never increase once you set those loan terms.